watch what happens when a satanic ritual was accidentally shown on the news, see security footage of a cloaked figure dancing with a broom. Today, we're talking witchcraft, rituals, seances, and other assorted weirdness. What would you do if you spotted this on your security camera? Okay, just your, average nightly broom dance / ritual woman. This footage was captured in South Africa on April 11th, 2021. That's pretty much all I know about it. If there's anyone from South Africa watching and you know more about this video or what this person is doing, please let me know. All I can say is that even if this person is not a witch, I'd still be very creeped out if I was walking around at night and came across someone doing this. Is this person just messing around? Are they not mentally well? Are they performing some type of ritual I'm just not aware of? Or could this be a genuine witch caught on camera? All incredibly important questions that I wish I could answer. So this is amazing. Take a look at this still image here. Looks like a dark satanic ritual is taking place. Either that or it's a super spooky D&D session. Well, no, it actually is a satanic ritual, but the best part is where it showed up, which was on the news. And not on purpose either. In 2021, an Australian newscaster named Yvonne Young was covering a story about a police dog that was attacked in Brisbane and, some new piece of legislation that was coming out of it. Anyway, suddenly the camera briefly cuts to this bizarre piece of footage. Let's watch how this played out. I just love this. Regular news footage of dudes in suits, story about laws and legislation, hail Satan, then back to the previous story. I love how she just sits there motionless for a brief moment, like looking clearly confused about what she's just seen, and then she just gets right back into it. Truly professional. I probably wouldn't have been able to maintain my composure. I would be on the floor laughing.
In our number 7 spot today, we have The Deer. Corinnia Stanhope, a nurse from British Columbia, thought she'd caught a typical woodland scene when she set up a camera near her home to keep an eye on wildlife. But what her trail cam captured instead was anything but ordinary. Instead of animals, she and her 76-year-old grandpa were horrified to find footage of what appeared to be 2 women, some say witches, having a very bizarre late-night feast on a deer carcass. To make things weirder, the women were nearly naked, and at one point, one even lifted a hoof to her mouth. As Corinnia said, "I don't know if she was kissing it, smelling it, or eating it, but whatever it was gross." Understandably, this creepy occurrence had her worried for her horses, who had been spooked in that area before. Some online theorists suggested skinwalkers, others blamed illicit substances, but whatever the case, I think we can probably all agree this is not the kind of trail cam footage you expect to find in your backyard. Would you be brave enough to check that camera the next morning? In our number 6 spot today, we have the TikTok Witch. TikTok is a great place, a great app. There's funny videos, interesting videos. My favorite recent trend is the subtle foreshadowing trend. TikTok is also sometimes a place where my For You page curates some of the most horrifying, upsetting things I've ever seen, and this video is definitely one of those moments. This TikTok has 10 million plays, and for good reason. Let me just show you before I say anything else. What is that? What is happening? Is that a creature? Is it special effects makeup? Is it AI, Photoshop, CGI? I have about 45 questions and absolutely no answers. In our number 5 spot today, we have the creepy creature. I'll be honest, this video is similar to the last one, but possibly more terrifying. This video gives us a better glimpse at a very similar looking creature that is in the same position as the last TikTok witch. People in the comments are honestly really debated over what this creature could be. Some are of course saying a witch, many people believe it might be a skinwalker, and some are even saying that it is an evil spirit from Islamic folklore. A skinwalker in certain indigenous American cultures is defined, quote, as a type of harmful witch who has the ability to turn into, possess, or disguise themselves as an animal. The term is never used for healers. As for the evil spirit, it is said that they go around, quote, inciting humans to sin by whispering in their hearts. According to Islamic tradition, though invisible to humans, they are imagined to be ugly and grotesque creatures created from hellfire. So now I have to ask that you've seen these 2 videos, what do you think this really is?
In 1645, Bury St. Edmunds in Suffolk was the site of England's largest witch trial, where 18 people were hanged. Matthew Hopkins was known as the Witchfinder General, later to be played by Vincent Price in the 1968 historical horror film Witchfinder General. Anyway, he and his team were responsible for 124 witch trials in Suffolk alone in that year. Most of the accused were poor elderly women, but men and wealthier citizens weren't always safe either. One of the victims you wouldn't typically associate with witchcraft was an 80-year-old reverend named John Lowes. After a violent interrogation, he was convicted and hanged as a witch. So you can only imagine how easy it was for old widowed outcasts to fall to baseless accusations like this. This was a pretty chaotic time in England. It was right in the middle of the English Civil War, and there had been an official law against witchcraft at the time. So the Witchfinder General, Matthew Hopkins, saw an opportunity to profit off of this, turning witch hunting into a lucrative business. In the 17th century, northern Moravia, now part of the Czech Republic, hundreds of women were burnt at the stake. One of the creepiest cases started when an altar boy saw an old woman pocket her communion bread instead of eating it. When the priest confronted her, she explained that she was going to give it to her cow. The priest wasn't happy about this. In fact, he was highly suspicious of the woman. He suspected her of witchcraft and decided to report her to the local judge. This set off a chain reaction of trials and executions. The judges who made money from sentencing people to death were coincidentally pretty enthusiastic about finding more witches to kill. They gathered accusations from the public and used torment to force confessions. The hunt spiraled out of control, and over 100 people could be executed in one single trial. Eventually, the ruling class in the area started to get worried because the witch panic was spreading and it was getting a little too close to home, so they pressured their government to end the trials, and finally, the witch hunts came to an end. The Trier witch trials took place from 1582 to 1594 in Germany. The region had been suffering from years of bad weather and poor harvests, and the public wanted someone to blame, so why not witches? The trials were pushed by a man named Peter Binsfeld, a bishop turned witch hunter. Now, witch hunts typically targeted vulnerable old women, as we've discussed throughout this video, but that wasn't the case here. Here, no one was safe. Even when Trier's deputy governor, Judge Dr. Dietrich Flade, tried to stop all the madness, he was tormented into confessing and was burnt at the stake. Over the course of the trials, at least 368 people were burnt alive. One of the few to escape execution was Cornelius Loos, a scholar who spoke out against the witch trials. He wrote a book protesting them, but the manuscript was seized and Loos was imprisoned. But he managed to get freed in 1593. He moved to Brussels and was then imprisoned once again for his anti-witch hunt stance. In 1612, 12 people from the area around Pendle Hill in Lancashire were accused of witchcraft, and their trials are some of the most infamous in English history. They were charged with the deaths of 10 people supposedly caused by witchcraft. Most of the accused came from two families, Elizabeth Southerns and her daughter Elizabeth Devis, along with their extended family, and Anne Whittle and her daughter Anne Redfern. There were also a few others like Jane Bulcock, Alice Nutter, and Janet Preston. Bulcock and Alice Nutter, that's a funny pair of names to put right together. I am very talented. Alright, the allegations were wild. People accused these people of using witchcraft to make people sick or just outright kill them, based on the fact that some of these people practiced traditional healing or fortune telling. And 10 of the accused were found guilty and hanged, and they weren't allowed any defense or witnesses speak on their behalf, so of course they lost. And today in Pendle, you'll find statues dedicated to these women and even a museum on the history of the Lancashire witch trials. Well, this is horrifying. The video shows this rusted white van parked outside, and in the background you can hear this strange noise, almost sounds like an animal whimpering or crying. As the clip goes on, something weird appears in the sky and starts moving toward the van. The person filming this is hiding behind some curtains, rightfully so, trying to get a look at what's happening. And when they finally peek out again, they see a cloaked witch-like figure standing on top of the car, staring right at the camera with glowing eyes. It starts to move closer, floating down from the car. It almost looks like it's swimming through the air. It's very eerie. And that's when the person filming freaks out and runs away from the window, understandably. Now, this clip has gone viral, with people on social media trying to figure out where it was filmed. Some say it was shot near a crematorium in Bihar, while others claim it's from Beirut, and also near a crematorium. It's a quality video for sure, but what do you all think? Is this one a hoax or a genuine piece of paranormal footage? All I know is it's creepy. So you can all thank me later for this terrifying thing showing up in your dreams tonight. Yeah, you're welcome. Just what in the hell is that thing? Well, there's not a lot of info on this video, but there is a vague internet urban legend behind it. Supposedly, a girl was kidnapped by an elderly woman. The girl ended up showing up again, but was in this state, almost like a living doll, a very creepy living doll. Sounds like something a witch would do to me. Grab a young person, do some spells on them, turn them into whatever this is. Now, whether there's any truth to that story or not, I don't care. It's a creepy video, and I will probably be seeing this thing when I close my eyes in bed tonight, unfortunately. How would you react if you saw this peeking out of your attic? Yeah, I wouldn't feel all that good about it myself, so a lot of people have said they think this video could be faked, but there is actually a real news story behind it. This happened in Poland on New Year's Eve in 2022. Police were called to a home in a small village. A woman named Kamilka had barricaded herself in the attic, making odd animalistic growling noises. Some say she'd been messing with a Ouija board before she started acting all strange, and then her family got concerned and phoned the police. And when authorities got there, they found her in a small crawl space or attic space. And she was refusing to cooperate with police. In fact, she wasn't really saying anything. She was just growling at them. It's an unsettling video for sure, especially with context. And some of these growling noises really do sound like something out of The Exorcist. Take a listen. And just for warning, if you're epileptic, you may want to look away for this next bit. In 1969, Tucson, Arizona, it was home to one of the strangest witch trials in history, mainly because this was 1969, not 1699. Ann Stewart was a teacher at Flowing Wells High School, where a folklore lecturer gave a talk at the school. And he went on to describe witches with traits like blonde hair, blue or green eyes, a widow's peak, a pointy left ear, and a fondness for, quote, devil's green clothing. Coincidentally, Stewart matched this description almost perfectly that day. And the students, of course, started joking around about it, and when one of them asked if she was a witch, Stewart replied, "What do you think?" Now, at first, Stewart had fun with the joke. She even encouraged students to explore astrology and dressed up as a witch for another folklore lesson. It was all just fun and games, but things quickly escalated and rumors started to spread. The school district wasn't amused, and in 1971, they fired her for passing herself off as a witch and, quote, teaching witchcraft. It was insane, and Stewart wasn't backing down. She took her case to court, and fortunately the judge ruled in her favor, ordering the school to reinstate her. Reflecting on the situation years later, Stewart was quoted saying, "I surely would have been burnt at the stake by now if this was 18th century Salem." In the 15th century, the remote Val Camonica region in northern Italy became the target of a brutal witch hunt. People were very isolated here. They didn't really know much about what went on outside of their small village. And in 1455, when an inquisitor visited, he was horrified by what he saw. He accused the locals of, quote, rejecting sacraments, immolating youths, and adoring the devil. It's unclear if these accusations were true, whether people were actually sacrificing their young. Probably not, but the Inquisition decided to step in. From 1505 to 1510, and again from 1518 to 1521, they carried out witch hunts. They forced confessions through torment and executed an estimated 100 people, many of whom were burnt alive as witches. In 1682, three women, Temperance Lloyd, Mary Trembles, and Susanna Edwards, were accused of witchcraft and executed. The trial also involved two other women who survived, probably because they were of higher social status. The three who died, though, were poor, unmarried, and lived off charity. They were the type of social outcasts at the time who were prime targets for accusations of witchcraft. Temperance, who'd been abandoned by her husband, sold apples to get by. Well, one day, a young rascal stole an apple and shortly after got sick, and that's when rumors started to spread about Temperance being a witch who poisoned or cursed the apple. And in July of 1682, Thomas Eastchurch accused her after his sister-in-law Grace Thomas fell ill. Eastchurch claimed that Temperance had confessed to witchcraft and had met a mysterious man believed to be the devil who had urged her to harm Grace. Then Mary Trembles and Susanna Edwards were accused after a woman named Grace Barnes blamed them for her own mysterious illness. Both women were accused of using magic to harm people, and the three women were tried together and found guilty. They were hanged on August 25th, 1682. After their deaths, their bodies were dumped in unconsecrated ground, now part of a car park near the University of Exeter, which actually offers a master's degree in witchcraft now. Next up, we have Maul Dyer. Maul Dyer lived in Leonardtown, Maryland, going down in history as one of the most prominent women accused of witchcraft during the Maryland witch trials in the late 1690s. At the time, there had been a deadly plague going around town, and added to that, the crops were in bad condition during a particularly harsh winter. It was just a bad time, and not having anything tangible to blame, the locals took their frustration out on those who they deemed witches. Superstition took over completely. Maul Dyer was one of the many who were accused of witchcraft. She was a surprise reclusive living alone at the edge of town, and after a town meeting, the locals determined that Dyer had called upon the devil to plague Leonardtown. An angry mob gathered and Dyer's home was burnt to the ground. She managed to escape, though, being chased out of town, but she wouldn't survive long in the harsh cold, eventually collapsing onto a rock. She placed her right hand on the rock, lifting her left into the sky, cursing the town for all of eternity. She was found days later, frozen to death, her arm still raised above her head. And at number 3, we have Pendle Hill. So the Salem witch trials are discussed quite a bit, but the Pendle Hill witch trials are probably the most famous in England. And Pendle Hill and the area surrounding it is said to be haunted by many of the vengeful spirits of the accused to this very day. They may not have escaped death during the trials, but their spirits ascended it. Pendle Hill in Lancashire, England is infamous for its association with the Pendle witch trials of 1612. Trials resulted in the hanging of 10 people accused of practicing witchcraft. Legend has it that Pendle Hill and its surrounding villages are haunted by the restless spirits of the accused witches. Locals share tales of strange ghostly apparitions and feelings of unease in certain areas. Some even claim to have encountered the apparitions of women dressed in old-fashioned clothing believed to be the spirits of the accused witches. It's said that their spirits roam the hill and the nearby villages seeking revenge or simply lingering in the afterlife. Next up, we have the Blair Witch. Yes, I am well aware that the Blair Witch Project was not actually found footage, but there is an actual local legend of a supposed entity called the Blair Witch said to haunt the area. The story goes that in the late 18th century in Burkittsville, Maryland, a woman named Ellie Kedward was accused of witchcraft by the townsfolk. They believe she was responsible for the unexplained deaths of several youths. Kedward was banished from the town during a harsh winter, left to die in the woods, but her accusers began to experience strange and terrifying occurrences afterwards. Ellie Kedward became known as the Blair Witch, cursing the land and anyone who ventured into her territory. And we're finishing off the list with Isabelle Gy. Isabelle Gy was a Scottish woman who became infamous during the witch trials in the late 17th century. Gy confessed to being a part of a coven of witches in the service of the devil. In her confessions, she described these elaborate and fantastical accounts of her interactions with the devil and the fairy queen and king. She claimed to have met the devil in various forms, including that of a handsome young man and a talking cat. Gy described ceremonies where she and other witches flew on broomsticks, transformed into animals, and engaged in rituals to harm their enemies. Her Confessions were very detailed, describing not only the activities of her coven, but also the spells and curses that they cast. She confessed to causing illnesses, blighting crops, and even bringing about deaths through her witchcraft. What's interesting is that during the witch trials, confessions were often obtained through force, leading many innocent individuals to admit to crimes they didn't actually commit. But that wasn't the case for Gowdy. She came forth entirely willingly. What's even more interesting is that there is no record of her death. We don't know if she was burnt at the stake, hanged, or if she didn't even die at the hands of authorities at all.